Hey YouTube, this is Wrestling Music Part Fan 62. In today's video, I'm here to give my overall thoughts on the 2024 or 2025, Royal Rumble match. Now, the first one on the card was the Women's Royal Rumble match. So, this one in particular was good. But, was it perfect? Absolutely not. I do like, first of all, the big NXT presence they had in the match. So, you had superstars like Julia, Stephanie Vaquer, Lash Legend, Roxanne Perez. I don't think... Oh, and Jada Parker was in it as well. I am honestly surprised they didn't bring in Jakara Jackson. I know she was in town. Maybe they just didn't see a spot for her. I don't know. But... So, there was a very heavy NXT presence. Especially when you compare it to the men, which I'll get to. But I will say the biggest thing people are talking about was entrant number 21 with Alexa Bliss returning. And that's going to be a video I'm going to do. She had literally the loudest pop of the night. And from what I'm seeing as well, that deal between WWE and Alexa came together literally early that morning before the Rumble. So, talk about timing. It was the same way with Punk, too, when he came back 2 years ago at Survivor Series. But also, the thing I like about the Women's Rumble in general for this year was, besides the heavy NXT presence, you also had the debut of newly signed Jordynne Grace. And I liked how the commentating for this mentioned how, compared to last year at the Rumble, this year she's fully signed by WWE instead of TNA. Because if you don't know, just a few weeks ago, Jordynne Grace lost her TNA championship to Tessa Blanchard at Genesis. But so it was reported after the match that they think Jordynne's time in TNA was up, and it was announced within like 2 days after that she was essentially done with TNA and she's going to sign with WWE. So, now, the other thing I liked in this match as well were the Iron Women. And that was Io Sky, Liv Morgan, and Roxanne Perez. First of all, congrats to Roxanne. She lasted 1 hour, 7 minutes, and like 44 seconds or something like that. So, she is the Iron Woman of the match. And it basically came down to her, Charlotte, and Liv Morgan. So, then of course you had the comedy spot in the match with Chelsea Green as well. So, but overall, the women's match was not that bad. I was highly impressed with it, with what they were able to do. there were some women in there you could tell the fans did not really care about, such as Sonya Deville, Shayna Baszler, and Zoe Stark, and there was a couple others. The people I am interested in why they didn't bring them in was people like the Unholy Union, Kaden Carter and Katana Chance, and several other women like that. But you had women like Maxine Dupree, who actually did pretty well for herself as well. So overall, like I said, the Women's Rumble wasn't that bad. Next, you have the Motor City Machine Guns versus the DIY. Where do I begin with this? It seems like with both of these teams, the fans are just not interested. I don't know with Motor City Machine Guns if it's just the indie-ness they're used to, and they're not used to something like, those type of fans, because the Royal Rumble 2025 broke the record for the amount of fans. According to WWE, they had over 70,000. So the Motor City Machine Guns were used to crowds like in indie shows and even TNA shows. For DIY, when they were baby faces in NXT, the crowd was behind them, and then when Ciampa went heel, they fully booed him. I would, if you ever have time, go back and check out Ciampa getting booed at an NXT takeover. So he came out to no music, and it was just solid boos. The thing is, with both of those people, with Johnny and them, they work on their own. The big thing is, once they're together like that, something does not really click. And when they went heel a couple of months ago, it just seemed like it did not work. And this constant back and forth of wanting the titles with the Motor City Machine Guns, those seem to be where it just, the arena was dead. And unfortunately, with this match, it put them in a very awkward spot, because it was between the Women's Rumble match and then the next match, which is Kevin Owens versus Cody Rhodes, which I'll get to. So it puts it at a weird thing. So if you want to compare it to Rumbles when Vince McMahon was around, this probably would have been maybe the pre-show or something like that, because when Vince did the Rumble, he had all the stuff like, the Raw Women's Championship being defended against so-and-so, the SmackDown Championship being defended against so-and-so, the tag team titles, and all this other stuff. So that is the big thing. And the ending for this match is also weird as well, because when Motor City Machine Guns went to do one move, they essentially got up, and then when they got up, Dawkins hit, I forgot who it was, with his crutch, seemed like turning them heel again, for them to lose. So DIY retains. So then when DIY thought, oh, they're with us, the Street Profits hit them with their crutches for DIY. So the way it's looking now is probably the Street Profits versus DIY versus Motor City Machine Guns, probably at Elimination Chamber in about 4 weeks' time. So, next match, like I said, is Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens. Now, while this is not something like the Money in the Bank ladder match, which will happen in the summer, this match in particular was brutal on so many levels because of the amount of abuse both men got regarding the ladder spots. Especially the one brutal match toward the end with Kevin Owens, where he was just fusely bleeding, and essentially it looked like they had to speed up the match to get it over with. And as of now, it sounds like possibly Cody Rhodes is injured and may or may not be able to defend the championship going into WrestleMania. But we have to see where that goes. Now, as for Cody won, of course, but it seemed like the last 5 minutes of the match seemed sped up, just for them to be like, okay, let's get this over with. So, overall, that it wasn't a bad match, but it's, you've seen better. Now, on to the men's Rumble. Okay. This Rumble match has been the better one over the past couple of years. Especially when you had that weird period with Vince trying to take over WWE. And then you had the first full year of Triple H, so he was trying to figure it out. So, number 1 and number 2 in the men's was Rey Mysterio versus Penta del Medio. I think that's how you say his name. So let's just say Penta. Now, before I go on, I do love the amount of luchadors they had in this match. So, putting Rey and Penta aside, you also had Santos Escobar, and then also Dominic Mysterio. And I love the boos Dominic came out to. So, and then the other cool thing they had in this match as well was from Saturday night's main event last week, between Jacob Fatu and Braun Strowman. So, if you looked at the Jacob Fatu versus Braun Strowman at Saturday night's main event, he essentially headbutted Braun's mouth, or Braun's face, a bunch of times, where he was just like spewing blood and all of that. So and the Rumble was the first time people saw Braun since. So I like that because it showed, just how mad Braun was from that. And it showed that the storytelling for this is good because it shows, just what happens. Now, the only thing I wish about it was Jacob versus Braun happened maybe like 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. instead of a week ago, just because that way Braun could have sold his injuries more, and that would have made him come back at the Rumble even more surprising. But besides that, I do like where they went with that. The other thing I liked was the ending sequence. So, in no particular order, you had Roman Reigns come out at number 16. You had John Cena come out at around, I think it was 18 or 20. And then you had Punk come out at around, I think it was like 22, 23. And then you had Seth come out at 25 or 26. And then Drew came out in there somewhere. And then you're also looking at the match. You're like, okay, who's missing? And lo and behold, at number 30, it was Logan Paul. Okay. I love that sequence, besides Logan. Because it was like, because you're like, oh, who's going to be the next person? Then you see, oh, it's John Cena. Oh, it's Punk. And then also I loved in there as well, you had two different bloodlines going against each other. So at one point you had main event Jey Uso going against Jacob Fatu. Or you had, Punk going against Seth Rollins. And all this other stuff mixed in. And then you had the hatred of Drew McIntyre versus the Bloodline. So you had all these different elements coming together. So the final 6 came down to John Cena, CM Punk, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, and Logan Paul. So I loved the cockiness of Logan in this, because he's thinking, oh, I just have to eliminate those other 5 and then I'll be the winner and go on to get a title shot at WrestleMania. So John Cena eliminated Logan Paul, and the place went ballistic. And then the thing I did not like, though, was the elimination of Drew, because that one just seemed sort of out of place and weird, because he got this weird elimination by Damian Priest. So then it came down to Roman, Seth Rollins, Punk, and Roman. So the way this came down to was Seth and Roman were on the ring apron, and Punk eliminated both of them. Then Logan eliminated John Cena. Jey Uso eliminated John Cena. So overall with the men's Rumble, the other thing I forgot to mention as well in this match was the comedy spot, which was sort of cool because you had the other member of American Alpha come out, which was Tozawa. And you're thinking, okay, he's going to come to the ring, do his shtick, and get eliminated. Well, who was it? Someone got eliminated and took out Tozawa. So they took Tozawa to the back into a randomly placed chair. And then Triple H saw IShowSpeed, who was doing a live from the Rumble. He's like, you're in the Rumble. He's like, what? You're in the Rumble. Go. And so they just randomly had IShowSpeed's music on file to a moderate pop. And then you had that with Braun Breaker. So overall, it was not a bad show, so to speak. My TV saying it was about 7 hours in total when you add in the 2 hour pre-show and then about a 4 hour show altogether, because it looked like each Rumble match was around 45 minutes to an hour, and then the other two matches were around 30 minutes or so, give or take. So overall, it was not a bad show. If you happen to have Peacock, I would highly suggest you look at it and see what you think. You can also find different stuff on YouTube as far as on the matches themselves. There are some really cool shots of stuff like some like the women's entrances, and there may be one of the men as well, and other stuff like that.